or we have 18 candidates. So if one candidate is able to cross that hurdle, irrespective of the number of candidates involved, he has won the election. But in the event that no candidate is able to meet all these criteria that you have listed, then of course there will be a runoff election. And I think this time between two of the many candidates involved. So,
well, like they said, there are projections that there might
be a
runoff. I mean, in that case, Mr. Komolafe, what are your thoughts on that as well?
Well, I mean, it's too late now to start looking for crystal balls or tea leaves. Yes, you just have to wait for Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. So, as Olivin is the one who from his pronouncement, would know whether we are going to have a runoff or not a runoff. If the implication of the result is that we have a runoff, of course, constitutionally, that's why the provision is there. It has to be followed so that so that's to have a conclusive election. But then, if you permit, I wanted to say something about this BVAS being on trial.
Yes.
Or INEC.
Okay.
Yes. I think if you permit me the luxury of being philosophical about it, so that before we start putting BVAS on trial, we should be, BVAS should not be on trial. Yeah, the reason is that I was being philosophical is that, you see, we are very eager to consume technological products of the best, the latest of any technology, even though we are not technologically developed, but in terms of the consumption of the products, you will have it. But that is not married by developing a scientific culture, a scientific mind.
Yeah.
That is, we consume the most sophisticated technology, but their mind, is not scientific.
Yeah.
One element of the scientific mind is that you must be conscious of the fact that any gadget, any technology, a human being, is subject to error. Because we have mentality of magic. So when we see a product, we think it will work magic. We don't expect it to develop fault. We don't expect it to have we don't expect it to have errors. So it is possible that some units, a BVAS circulation that maybe they may even have factory faults that they have. So that in itself does not warrant putting BVAS on trial or putting INEC on trial.
Yeah.
After all, there are cars, made from the factory, and then after you're already in circulation, that the maker will now say that we should withdraw them because they later discover backward. So, so BVAS is not
on trial.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that it could be genuine errors, genuine error, which should be expected.
We shouldn't write it off.
We shouldn't expect BVAS to perform magic. And finally, in the case of INEC, without holding a brief for him, because I'm not a lawyer, it's only that is that from INEC or from BVAS, what we should expect is not perfection or progress.
Okay.
We should expect them to make progress, but never expect perfection.
We're staying with the section 134, and we're still coming back to Mr. Fusika. But let's go to Abuja. Dr. Sam Amadi, you're very familiar with what that section of the Constitution says. What are your thoughts? Is it too early in the day to begin to speculate about the likelihood of a runoff, or how clear is that section and the law to an ordinary a person who's just looking at what is going on and what may likely happen?
Well, thank you. I think it's not too early. By the way, the discussion 1999 put this section for a purpose. It's anticipated that there could be possibility. It talked about first where there's two horse races, that means two candidates in the election, and when there are more than two, and talked about a runoff, and also when a runoff does not produce a winner, it talked about another runoff. So the Constitution carefully laid out this process because they are possible. It's true that JEGA declares the result until results are declared, like they say, until the fat lady sings, it's not over. Now, for now, we all have conjectures, but it's good to plan about this possibility. Now, one of the problems you're going to have is many people assuming that the 4 or 3 or 5 leading candidates, nobody makes 25% in 24 states plus FCT, depending on interpretation. I'll come to that later. Then people who should go for a run. Now, this is where it becomes tricky. the person with the largest majority of votes, even if he had only 6 states to 25% in 6 states, will be the first pick. So assuming Mr. A had 6 states where he had 25%, but maybe he took all the big states and his number is high, and no other person has majority 51, or depending on the number, majority plus 25 in 2/3 states. Then Mr. A, who had only 25 in 6 states, but majority, gets picked. So it says the candidate who scored the highest number of votes at election head in that, he gets picked. He doesn't have to have spread. He simply has biggest majority. Then the next person to be picked is a candidate who scored the highest in the highest number of states. So that again means that assuming I have 22 states where I have less than maybe the 25 required, but at least I have majority in most states. You get in. So the person who has more 25 gets in. So the point here is it's a little bit careful how people perceive who will be on the runoff. A person who didn't have number of states might be the highest person who has the number, and then the next person who comes in will now be the person who has the more than the other person. Now, there's also possible that at the end of the day, none of them they are equal. The equal number of states, equal number of majority in states. Then the person who has the overall majority is the person who now competes with the first pick. Again, the simple issue around FCT. Now, many interpretations, people are saying FCT is, of course, in the constitution likened to a state. So it means you're going to have the 2/3 will be calculated from FCT plus, the states plus FCT. What about arguing, minority view, that you got to also have 2/3 in FCT, irrespective of how many states you got 25. So, and it's being read to mean you scored 25% in 2/3 of the states, properly so-called. Then you are expected to score 25 also, at least 25 in FCT to have it, to qualify to be the winner. So these are issues that may lead to judicial interpretation or intervention, especially if with 3, 4, 5 candidates doing fairly well, it might be difficult to, it might be possible, maybe not, we've not seen that scenario before, but it might be possible that actually nobody gets the 25% 25 in 2/3 states plus FCT, however you read it, or an FCT, and then still be the majority, in which case, invariably, you are running to a runoff. So a possibility that somebody who scored the highest number of votes finishes less than 25 in 2/3 states drags this election to a runoff, whether irrespective of how much votes he has. So some possibility, we might be lucky to have a winner announced maybe tomorrow evening when the results are all in. We have a clear winner, the person who has the highest number of votes, as well as 20 to 25 in 2/3. And let me make this point quickly. Nigeria does a great job with this provision. In all over the world, there's debate around socialism, politics, where you bring everybody to negotiate power. Ethnically, plural states struggle from winner takes all. By this provision, what the Nigerian Constitution has achieved for our democracy, which we should brag about, is that it's very impossible for anybody to become president of Nigeria, except there's significant support measured by votes from other parts of the country. So that gives us a critical recipe for social stability, which is that you don't just have the majority win, you have some sense in which everybody, including minorities, are part of the elite bargain that will sustain governance. But what has worked against it now is the fact that our elections are getting increasingly criminalized, so that getting, for example, if I was run for president in Nigeria and in Kano or Sokoto, I get 25%, and in Ekiti or Oyo, the typical Southwest Yoruba area, I get 25%. And down in South, let's say Akwa Ibom or Cross River, I get 25%. You could, and then Borno, maybe Kanuri Heartland, I get 25% if I didn't win. You could say that this president has legitimacy because these places, all these guys express degree of confidence in him. So he has a broad mandate. But in an election where you can contract people to rig for you and give you 25, where you can contract people to probably commit all kinds of fraud, maybe even numbers are not genuine, then you undermine the very stabilizing framework of that constitutional provision, which is that once you pass this muster constitutionally, you are a credible president. You are a president with broad support, because if you can do this in 2/3 of the states in Nigeria that are scattered along religious, ethnic, and social divisions, that means your mandate has broad appeal. So this is a wonderful provision, only that our principles of democracy seem to undermine it when, if it's fair and free and somebody scores this, he is a legitimate president with broad mandate. And that's what, this is one of the biggest theories now in political science. How do we create a society where democracy creates broad legitimacy so as to be effective? And I'm proud that the Nigerian constitutional makers thought this wise even as early as 1979. But unfortunately, our practice seemed to undermine the efficacy.
I mean, that's a good one. Before Mr. Fusika, I say, and before you come in, I think that it will be important to again go over what the Constitution actually says in detail. Like I read earlier, Section 2 of that, the Section 134 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, a candidate for an election to the office of president shall be deemed to have been duly elected where there have been more than 2 candidates for the election. A says he has the highest number of votes cast at the election. B, he has not less than 1/4 of the votes cast at the election, each of at least 2/3 of all the states in the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. But it goes further than that. And it says in the third slide, in a default of a candidate duly elected in accordance with subsection 2 of this section, there shall be a second election in accordance with subsection 4 of the section, at which the only candidate shall be A, the candidate who scored the highest number of votes at any election held in accordance with the said subsection 2 of this section.
1 year of all-out war. 1 year of upturned lives. 1 year of European solidarity. The European Parliament will continue to stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes.
But that where there are more than one candidate with majority of votes in the highest number of states, the candidate among them with the highest total of votes cast at the election shall be the second candidate for the election. And of course, it says in section 4, in default of a candidate duly elected under the foregoing subsections, the Independent National Electoral Commission shall, within 7 days of the result of the election held under the said subsections, arrange for an election between the 2 candidates, and the candidate at such election shall be deemed elected to the office of president if A, he has a majority of vote cast at the election, and B, he has not less than 1/4 of the vote cast at the election in each of at least 2/3 of all the states in the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Just one more slide to go. Section 5, still of the same Section 134 of the Constitution, in default of a candidate duly elected under subsection 4 of the section, the Independent National Electoral Commission shall, within 7 days of the result of the election held under the aforesaid subsection 4, arrange for another election between the 2 candidates to which the subsection relates, and the candidate at such election shall be deemed to have been duly elected to the office of president if he has a majority of the votes cast at the election. Mr. Fusika, I love to digest from there and to break down, to an average.
But I wanted also you to touch on the event again. in case there is a runoff, which some analysts have projected that the case might be. I wanted you to clarify what it means. The word majority, there seems to be some differing opinions on the word or the definition of majority. Some say it has to be, is it most votes, or is it more than 50% of the votes?
If you have two candidates,
right,
most votes will be 50 plus some percent. If you have just two candidates, where you have more than two candidates, it doesn't mean you must get 50 plus 1 vote. It doesn't mean, it means the person with the highest number of votes amongst all the candidates. That's what it means. So I don't, we lawyers, we try to create, that's what we eat from, controversy. Dr. Amadi also has given us 2 interpretations of the word "and" in those many provisions of the law. Let me explain what it is. What is being suggested is that after winning at least 25% in 2/3 of 36 states, you also need to win 25% in Abuja. In other words, if a candidate after winning 25% of 36 states and has majority of votes, if he doesn't have 25%, maybe it's another candidate that has 100%, or in Abuja, he's not qualified. That's the scenario being painted or suggested by some lawyers. It doesn't matter what I say, and it doesn't matter what you say. They are already determined. The only way that will not go to court is if the only way that will not become an issue before Nigerian courts is if all the candidates, or the 4 or 5 candidates, if they are able to get 25% in Abuja, so that won't go to court because it become a needless debate. But if the person that wins or has the majority vote doesn't have 25% in Abuja, in addition to 25% in 24 states, you are sure that his opponent will make that an issue before the court if he doesn't want to throw in the towel. But I think, this is my opinion, what that section simply means. The Constitution did not intend to give Abuja a veto power over who wins the election. Abuja is not a state. All the section is saying is that after describing 36 states, it's adding Abuja to it. So it's supposed to be like 37. Let me put it that way now. Not that Abuja has a special veto to say, oh, if you don't, you must have in Abuja. What's special about Abuja? Nothing, So that's my own view. But like I said, Nigerian lawyers, don't let me say Nigerian lawyers. Lawyers would always find a way to create, avenues for them to justify their money, whatever they are earning. So we should understand it from that angle. But like I said, maybe a needless debate at the end of the day.
Because it may not get to the point of...
Atiku has 25%, Tinubu has 25%, Obi has 25%, Kwakansu has 25%, Shogore has 25% in Abuja. What's the debate about? It's not going to be of any importance. But I do believe that it means 37, 25% of 37. That's what it means.
All right. Well, I guess we can have Dr. Sam Amadi comment on Olumide Fushika's analysis on what 25% or majority means.
Dr. Amadi,
So I think this Sam, yes, I think I agree with his view clearly, but the point is, maybe he knows better how lawyers charge, and so as an advocate. But really, I think it's not just about pecuniary purposes. It's also really that I was in the U.S. When I was a graduate student at Harvard, when 2000, when Bush Gore happened, one of my professors then, Larry Stripe, took the matter to Supreme Court. He turned on how do you distinguish a child ballot And so there are negative about elections. And again, the question of Abuja, let me come here. I took the view that Abuja should have a Trump. That means it should be read as 36 plus 1, because Abuja now is added for the purpose of this election to have status with the states. But again, look at it again, somebody can argue, and this is just arguing on both sides, that look, if you look at for 1976, the Abuja's description and position in Nigerian political history shown by his orthography is essentially a melting point. I've heard people debate about it. It looks like from elections result of God so far, we might have, for the first time, a non-indigenous, or so to say, become the FCT senator. So everybody Abuja is special. So one can argue really that there may be the draft of the Constitution wanting to, which is in keeping with the logic of creating a presidency that maybe reflects that broad consensus, considers Abuja a must-win. But again, historically, if you look at US, DC, and others, that example doesn't show. It may be a stretch. But like I said, it's very likely that the possible people, this is just our own looking at results so far, who could win this election would all do well, meaning score 25, in which case it becomes an academic proposition waiting for another bad day. If that happens, we are free. But if it doesn't happen, clearly it won't be a dismissible case at the court. It will be a case that the court will listen to. But the general policy might be that many people would think like the Sun has said it, which is take it as adjunct to the 36. It becomes purpose of election. 37 states now, and they work out the 25% of that 37. There will be a minority who could, maybe for other purposes, think that maybe, but I honestly think that nothing in the practice of Nigerian democracy suggests that Abuja, the constitutional drafters intended to give Abuja a trump over all states. No, it doesn't seem like, but that's a possible reading of and. Hopefully, we won't get there. If we get there, we pray again that our courts will be consistent and do what is right. Anybody who has scored 25% of 2/3 states in Nigeria, valid votes confirmed by INEC, and has majority, should have the right to form government. And so we might take a policy decision that, irrespective of all possible interpretation of and in this circumstance, that it's in the policy of the law that whoever gets this milestone qualifies to be the president of Nigeria, and we take it from there. So I agree with the Sun in the way you look at it. I always say that I don't think it's basically pecuniary. It could be driven by some scholastic or analytical, framework to say, look, Abuja should have a trump because Abuja is a melting point. Abuja is a cultural, if you like, barbecue. Everybody's here. Everything is there, tomato, onions. So if you don't take Abuja, you are not that representative. But I say the more reasonable and broad opinion is the one he canvassed. What I want to see, for me, as somebody who likes democracy, is that whoever wins in this election because president is somebody that has worked hard to earn the trust of most Nigerians. It doesn't have to be the best person. It doesn't have to be the person who wins everything. Let it be somebody who, by the votes, the people have expressed confidence, because it has impact for how people govern. If you look at the history of governance post-election, those with broad mandates seem to have more commitment to make radical changes, because they can say, look, everybody across the divides voted for me. Christians, Muslims, animists, atheists, Igbo, Yoruba, Efik, Ijo. There's some sense that everybody in this Nigerian mosaic recognizes that this is a person we can put our trust in. And we are at a dangerous time in our history where the notion of nationhood is facing turbulence. We must have to have a leader who can boast that people in Kanamoda or in Sokoto, somewhere in Sokoto, or some people in Owerri, or people in Abeokuta really considers this person as somebody they can trust. And 25% is good enough measure of broad acceptance in any state. If 1/3 of the states voted for you out of 2/3 states, then you are good to go.
Okay.
I guess we can bring in Mr. Olumide Fushika. I'd like your general assessment of yesterday's presidential and National Assembly election. If we were to look at the headlines in today's newspapers, if we take a Sunday Telegraph, violence, poor logistics, Ma process. I would like to juxtapose that with the Guardian newspaper. Despite hitches, massive turnout as Nigerians elect new leaders. What's your take on voter apathy? If we can start with that.
Well, if one headline says a massive turnout, my own experience is that Nigerians are actually interested in choosing their own leaders. I started by, telling about my own experience yesterday, and I thought, oh, this was until we began to hear other things happening. And I said that Nigerian politicians are not interested in democracy. We are the ones interested. We are the ones going there to cast our vote. But they are really not. They just want to get to power, whichever way they are able to. Whether by if they win, of course they are happy. Yeah. But if they don't win, they are not likely to. Once they see that we are not doing well in this particular area, they have another plan. What do we do to ensure that we counteract that effect? So whoever wins this election will win the way Nigerian politicians normally win power, and those who have lost should just accept and move on to try again another day. Democracy, like I said, is aspirational. It's illusional. You think that, okay, people actually go, we actually cast our votes, and at the end of the day, the thing is tallied up, and we decide, okay, this is the majority view, this is what Nigerians have said. There are a lot of things, that is playing out outside what we can perceive, that would determine who wins and who doesn't. For instance, like I said, I've seen videos, but they say they can fake up videos, so don't take it as evidence. As evidence. I'm not putting it forth as evidence, but I've seen videos where elections, the coalition people are doing their own and arguments. No, this was not what we sent to you from the polling unit. Why? And you see TPS, cancellation on electoral. So that's that structure. Yeah. It means that the person in control of that particular area has structure on the ground to ensure that the will of the people tallies with its own will, helping them to.
Structure has become euphemistic, isn't it, KK?
No, but that's what it means. It means that if you, for instance, if I say I want to be president now, I don't have a councillor, I don't have House of Rep, I don't have local government, I don't have anything.
Governor.
I don't have governor. I'm starting at a disadvantage because at the end of the day, INEC infrastructure piggy banks on the structures of the states.
Right.
Yes, that's what happens. So, and who is in control of that state will determine a lot of things. Right. The thing is just to, I think, without wanting to, we should also be positive in the sense that I see, especially amongst the youth, people that we can classify as young, they are actually more interested in political outcomes, what goes on around them now, than say in years past when the economy was a bit more, now they are questioning because they are the victims, we are talking about their future. And you can see the enthusiasm, the efforts they have put in. I would appeal to them not to get discouraged. Even if they have not achieved their aim this time, they should keep on working. Most important in this election.
Okay, Mr. Fusika, there are a couple of things that we mentioned earlier, but I would like your views, from the point of law. First is the issue of the omission of logos and acronyms. In some parties have complained, that might amount to disenfranchising their supporters who might not be able to vote or vote correctly. There are a few examples of that. The second one will be the question, as recorded in Kano, of voters that appear to be underage. And the Commissioner of Police in Kano is saying that he was not in a position to determine who an underage person is. A person could have a stunted growth, and you can't say, since INEC has already given that person a PVC. And then if you like, you can add the point of the president of the country, Muhammadu Buhari, the chief law officer of the country, Attorney General Malami, and one of the chieftains of APC, Orji Zokalu, who after voting, displayed to the full glare of the camera, their ballot papers. And people are saying that this runs contrary to the Electoral Act. In the eyes of the law, Mr. Fusika, SAN, what will be your thoughts, without, of course, commenting on what is safe to comment on?
Well, let me start with the last one. We saw the president displaying his
ballot paper.
One would have wished that the president he's the leader of the country, he represents the law. I would have wished that he didn't do that because it's not in strict compliance with the Electoral Act. But at the same time, you will understand why he possibly did that. Here is a president whose party members have been accusing of not doing their bidding or working in opposition to them and so on and so forth. So maybe it's his own way of showing to the whole world, I'm not opposed to you, I voted for you. So that may have propelled him to do that. But, the reason why that provision of the law or regulation is there is, the Boko Bobe or something like that phenomenon,
Before we, I want to touch on that section of the Electoral Act, because you know that Abubakar Malami had come out to say that he did not do anything to contravene that act. And he quoted the section, if I can read it, section 122, subsection 3B, prohibits third-party individual to communicate at any time to any other person information obtained in a polling unit as to the candidate to whom a voter, someone else, is about to vote or has voted for. So basically, he's saying he's allowed to do that as long as there's no third-party inducement.
When they were drafting that provision, they didn't anticipate that a person can do it himself.
Oh.
Can decide to. The provision is meant to stop that kind of situation. So if you charge the president, assuming he can be charged, lawyers will get him out based on the fact that he's not a third party. It's a voluntary thing he did himself. This is who I'm voting for. It doesn't change the reason behind the provision, which is that keep your vote to yourself. But it's not a third party. It's not a third party. It's not a third party in this instance. What he has done, if he displays it, in a way, he's telling the others that have not voted that this is where you should, it's like trying to influence them. That may not be his intention. I actually think that his intention is what I've explained. Accused, he started, he changed money, he did this, he did that, and he wanted to convince his party that I'm with you. I'm not against you. I voted for our candidates. I don't think he was trying to influence anybody in that situation. But like I said, being the president of the country, I would have preferred that he led by example by simply not doing that, irrespective of the motivation, that he had in doing it.
All right.
That's on the first.
Well, before you go on your second option,
Yes.
we're going to go on a short break. And when we come back, our special coverage on the presidential and National Assembly elections will continue. Stay with us.
Thinking of banking in Africa? Think Zenith. In today's fast-moving, fast-changing world, you need a financial partner that understands your unique expectations. A bank with presence in major financial centers across the world, with the enabling platform to facilitate seamlessly whenever. wherever, however. A bank with best-in-class financial solutions from a superb combination of technology and human touch for easy, fast, and secure banking that creates real value. Turning dreams into reality is now in your hands. People, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
Today, the Tony Elmelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program has trained over 1.5 million young African entrepreneurs. We have disbursed nearly $100 million to over 18,000 beneficiaries.
I'm about to serve better breakfast.
If you're in Lagos, you need to see this.
I'm not just streaming content, I'm just escaping traffic.
Get more data to enjoy exclusive content. Dial *141# now. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Today, the Tony Elmelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program has trained over 1.5 million young African entrepreneurs. We have disbursed nearly $100 million to over 18,000 beneficiaries who have gone on to create over 400,000 jobs across Africa.
We need to do more for women in Africa. Empower a woman, you're empowering a whole society.
The Tony Elumelu Foundation gives access to a world-class business training and seed capital.
Thanks to the Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program, we've been able to structure our business and operations, but also we got the funding and financial needs to concretize it and make it happen.
This is the impact we want to achieve at the Tony Elmelu Foundation. The Tony Elmelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program is sector agnostic. The only thing that is important to us is your ideas. The future of Africa is in your hands.
Foreshore Waters has delivered, and we are still delivering homes in the best locations in Lagos. Even with the current economy, we are creating affordable housing options in Banana Island, Ikoyi, and environs. Now, we are bringing you an unbelievable opportunity to own fully built homes in Osborne, Ikoyi. You can own a 3-bedroom apartment with 39.99 million naira initial deposit, or a 4-bedroom maisonette for 59.99 million naira initial deposit. All homes are fully built in Osborne. You can move in immediately after your first deposit and spread the balance while you leave it. Join the League of Luxury Homeowners in Lagos today. For more details and enquiries, visit www.fwl.ng.
You're welcome back. Against speculations by some political critics that Amuwo Odofin and Okota areas of Lagos State will likely experience some form of violence during this year's presidential and National Assembly elections, the reverse was the case during the polls, which witnessed large voter turnout. Our Arise correspondent, Ozzy Okoli, has the story.
The coverage of the 2023 presidential and National Assembly elections in Amuwo Odofin and Okota areas of Lagos State was violence-free with hiccups from the very few independent National Electoral Commission officials arriving polling units very late. In Festac, Amuwo Odofin local government area, the polling unit of the All Progressives Congress organizing secretary for Lagos State chapter, Ayo Adewale, was very peaceful, with the electorates obeying all rules of engagement. However, The case was quite different in Okota area of Agor Palace Way under Isolo Local Council Development Area. At polling unit 023, Ward 8, located at Babaiwe Junction in Okota, which was regarded as the largest polling unit in Okota, the very few INEC staff deployed were overwhelmed by the large turnout of voters, coupled with the functioning of just one bimodal voters accreditation system machine, BVAS.
There are so many challenges. We came out early. By 8 a.m. we already gathered here. We had to wait for INEC officials and the materials to arrive. Unfortunately, they didn't come. I was sending situation reports to the situation room. By 10:35, the canopy was installed. The INEC officials arrived. Then accreditation started around 11. But there were so many other challenges. One of them is that they came without stamp. Secondly, there was no ink and pad. I personally had to call a bookseller who now supplied inks and pad. I had to supply ink and pad to 023, 084, Greenfield, and Star Times, because there were, I don't know whether it was intentional or it was a mistake on their part not to come with pads. They were rubbing pen on the tips of the index finger, and it was not good because the images, the stamp, the voting was blurred, so I had to go and get stamp.
The number of people here is very big. My number is 814. Why they are still in 200 and they don't come with stamp. They just go and borrow stamp from people that just finished. One unit, one stamp for all these people. People are tired, they didn't even come with stamp. Please, INEC should do some this. Okay, hold on. Do you think it's deliberate? Why I think it's deliberate. They just do it. Why would they come here without stamp? And they came late. We've been here since 6 o'clock. What time? Look at crowd here. Last election, this is where the violence starts. They should please help us. Okay, you mean last election in 2019? Yes. This is where the violence starts. Last election, the other helicopter is roving here. There's no security men here, and we are patient. We don't want violence. They should help us. They don't have to frustrate us. It's bad. And there's no violence. There's no security personnel, and we come down. We are on the sun. Okay, but for this 2023 election, there is no violence so far, and security men are on ground compared to last year. Yeah. So we need to establish that. Yes, security men, the soldiers have come here. We have complained. They said they must finish the election. They must finish it. Now look at the crowd here. Let them help us.
This morning the materials were not enough, so we are short of materials. That's the first thing. We had to wait for over 2 hours. Then after 2 hours, we had to come up here to set up. We came here around after 11, so the voting started late. And they have about 1,896 voters that are to vote here. And aside that, we're supposed to be 4 here, but we have just 2 people here. So imagine the 2 of us controlling this crowd. I'm the one handling the 2 PVAS and everything. So the challenges, we also have the INEC stamp challenges. We were able to receive the stamp this morning. So we had to go and borrow from another polling unit that are done with their voting. So the voting is in process now. Okay, so just pray we finish on time because a lot of people has not voted.
Okay, so I need to let you go so that you concentrate on what you're doing. But before I let you go, how will the time be augmented? Because we heard that by 2:30 voting is supposed to stop. Will there be an extension here based on the present situation of things?
Yes, there should be an extension because we came late. So there should be an additional hours of like maybe 2 hours, maybe by 4, so we can give enough people to vote because it's their right. People must vote, so there will be an extension.
Okay, so is there any attempt to bring in more INEC officials to come and help you?
Yes. We've made contact with some of our people that they are done with their votes. So by the time they count their vote, they've done the necessary thing, then they'll come and join us.
Elsewhere are the same Okota in Agor Palace Way. Voters complained of INEC officials providing them with a different ballot papers of another local government area.
First of all, I want to say that this process, since it started, has been relatively peaceful. There is no form of violence going on here, but we have some issues that are not going on as we initially planned. The first on the list is that the INEC officers came late. They came around some minutes past 10, and voting started around 10 minutes past 11. So, and when we started voting, we discovered that the House of Rep ballot paper they brought here is for Mushin 1 instead of Oshodi Isolo 2. Secondly, the ballot paper for Senate, there's no Labour Party logo on it. Then thirdly, they came here with only one BVAS machine, and it is delaying the process. And then one of the INEC officers is the one tearing the ballot paper. She is the one signing, and she is the one stamping. This thing is delaying the process. So it's only one person. So the officers they brought here are not sufficient enough to do this voting process.
At another polling unit, the scenario became an agitation. Voters insisted that INEC officials must upload results before leaving the polling units, despite the complaint by INEC officials that network failure is being experienced.
I was the first person to cast my vote, and before 2 were all done. And of course, to keep in terms with INEC's guidelines, we waited to 2:30 for the results to be counted, and then for us to verify that it was okay. And since then, we've been waiting for the upload of the results. Well, we waited a bit, and there were some agitations here and there. People were very upset, angry over the whole situation. And after we had intervened and people had tried to achieve some calm, they were able to upload the National Assembly results. But unfortunately, it is still quite surprising, and we're still asking questions why that should go through and the presidential results are yet to be uploaded. Because those who have started their votes here have vowed that the officials will not leave this polling unit until the results are uploaded to the site, which is the requirement, and that is what it should be. So, and we're wondering why of all the results, the presidential elections, the results are not being uploaded. So we are asking questions, please, what is going on? You understand? And we are waiting. We are here. We mean business. We are going nowhere. And for the sake of these INEC officials who we are feeling for, we need these sites to come up, to open and allow them upload these results so we can return back to our homes. We mean for a peaceful and fair election. That's what we stand for.
As the day started to turn to night, Okoto's largest polling unit took a new twist. Voting was cut short by INEC officials who started counting the almost 200 votes that was turned in. And almost 700 accredited voters in the largest polling unit of Okota were not allowed to cast their votes.
Here's my polling unit. I came to vote today, and when we came here, at first we took numbers. I was number 609. We waited, and the INEC officials came here by past 11. Coming here at past 11, they started arranging things. Although things were arranged for them to come to set up and everything. I went back and I came back to vote, to cast my vote. Reaching here, I found out that only one BVAS was working out of 2 BVAS, you know, and having to vote with only one BVAS with a crowd. We have this is one of the largest polling units here. I remember in 2019 we were disenfranchised here because people came to scuttle our votes, scuttle the ballot boxes, you know. Coming back here today, I came to vote. I thought I'd be able to vote today. Coming here, we found out that we had only one BVS, so we could not vote. Out of 1,000, over 1,200 people came here. 1,238 to be precise, and less than 250 people voted. The BVS machines were very, very slow. The INEC officials came here very late, and of course, and the officials are very, very, very few. The police officials here, they didn't try to coordinate things. They just were very, very lackadaisical, you know. They tried, but they were lackadaisical, because I remember going to tell them to help arrange us, but it didn't happen like that. At 6 p.m., at 6 p.m., the army officials told us to stop because they probably had got intelligence that this place was going to be scuttled anytime soon. So over 800, over 8,000 people didn't vote. Look at them, that's evidence. Look at them, that's evidence. Over 8,000 people didn't vote. I didn't get to vote. Some members of my family didn't get to vote, although some members voted, but some other members didn't get to vote. That's total disenfranchisement. We hope that the gubernatorial elections will be better, fairer, and we have more BVAS machines and more members of staff of INEC. You couldn't have brought only 2 people for as many electorates. We've got over 1,238 people, and less than 250 people voted today. Less than 250 people voted today. You came late. Aside coming late, you didn't start on time. Aside this, you came only 2, and out of the 2 BVA machines, only 1 was working. That's today unacceptable. I feel totally disenfranchised, but well, it's better than 2019. At least we've got results. In 2019, we didn't have any result from this place. On top of everything, we didn't have ink. Somebody had to volunteer to buy ink. I thought there was a kind of small mock exercise where people, especially the presiding officers, knew exactly what was supposed to be brought to the polling units. They came here without any ink, any stamp ink, or anything at all. They only came here with only they only came out with marker to mark our fingers and the papers. They didn't come with ink or stamp. We had to get that by ourselves. So we over 8,000 people feel disenfranchised. We hope that moving forward in subsequent elections, we'll have more PUs, we'll have more polling units, we'll have more polling units. I go to let me read it out. My polling units is 24-18-09-023. I hope we'll have more polling units.
With the huge complaint of voters not being able to cast their votes, Nigerians are hoping that the final output of results will truly reflect the mandate of the electorates. Ozzy Okoli, Arise News, Lagos.
All right, we'll bring in Dr. Sam Amadi to join us on this conversation. As you saw in that report, despite hitches, poor logistics on the part of INEC, violence, Nigerians, I guess it's safe to say that we'll congratulate them because there was massive turnout, as you saw in Ozzy Okoli's report. But I'd like to ask, because I did ask Olumide Fushika about what do you think? Do you think there was any sort of voter apathy at all?
Thank you very much. First, let me thank Arise News reporter for that excellent report. Again, there was no voter apathy across the country. In fact, finally, when INEC tallies the numbers and give it out, there was great improvement. Now, just like in Lagos, where we saw also in Port Harcourt, here in Abuja, 2 things. First, my comrade Kayode was very lenient, moderate as he tries to be, saying INEC maybe half full, half empty. This is just half empty or even total empty. Things as simple as inks, not just that place. In Abuja, many places, they were asking people to vote with pen. People said no, someone had to volunteer to go to a shop nearby and buy ink for INEC. Now, this is not about machine failing. Oh, beavers failed. This is a simple thing as providing for inks and pads. Again, INEC made a ceremony of new delineations. INEC says we have split these units, smaller groups, those are over 500, we split them. In Abuja, the places are monitored. There are booths that were 2,000, 1,000 or something in a polling unit, and then a polling unit has only 15, 30 people. So this total shambolic management of this process deprives it of credibility. This is very important. We may be in a hurry to have elections wrapped up and move on as a country. No, that's not how democracy is defined. If you can countenance this number of people out to vote, they came out, stay back. In the past, Nigerians, the argument has been that, look, low turnout is that Nigerians don't really care about elections, don't care about democracy. Nobody wants to miss their job. Nobody wants to stay in the sun, in the rain. Yesterday, there were videos of persons who stood in the rain waiting to vote in spite of these infuriating mistakes. So imagine you want to vote and somebody telling you, we don't have paper. then you are staying there for like 30 minutes, 1 hour, the INEC official has not come. The sun is beating you, and you still stay there waiting for INEC to come, and then you still stay there asking INEC to allow you to vote, and you still stay there waiting for INEC to upload. So what we are seeing, the benefit of this process today is that we are seeing that Nigerian, especially the youth demographic that we see as problem with violence, could be problem with drugs, is actually a democracy gain if we're used. So we are seeing young people, graduates, young students in universities, and of course, older young adults enthusiastic about this election. Not just the campaign. We saw the campaigns. We saw Big Brother Nigeria Titan. People prophesied or predicted that, look, it's going to dampen morale. It didn't work. Now election with all the failures. And these failures, in my view, are so structured that one should begin to raise concern whether they are intentional. I mean, I look at the story. That Okota was a place of violence. This time around, no violence. At least I've not got report about violence. But this time around, INEC should have prioritized those areas and would have managed their logistics in a manner that people have no reason to even, become violent. But what we have seen is that this time around, people didn't want violence. This time around, people wanted to vote. There were no opposition, killing them. There were no government officials harassing them, no police scattering things. Simply, INEC refused to show up. The same story in Rivers, elsewhere. Now, when you have now done this and you're going to do a re-election maybe today, I mean, the level of participation will be low. I know somebody who called me and said, look, I've been in the sun for 5 hours. I'm going home. If INEC likes, let them not show up. So I think that while we wait for who wins and while we rejoice with our candidates or those we support, we should really pay attention to why would some things like knowing how many units you have, polling units, knowing how many, if you have voters of 2,000, you will know that the ink, you'll be able to estimate what ink, just pressing how many bottles or how many parts of ink we need for this, and then provide them. Let's not forget how much has been spent on INEC, over 300-something billion. Foreign assistance, federal government assistance, development partners, basket donors, everything. Civil society, technical support, National Assembly graciously amending the Electoral Act and basically giving what we want. President Buhari also signing off, or like in the past, where he has withheld assent. All this to enable INEC show up. But INEC is the one that didn't show up. So for me, voter turnout very high. It's part of the Naira crisis that a week before it was crazy. In fact, a few days to vote, part of the fear with the international community, all economists was, how would this affect people coming out? Fuel crisis over insecurity. Look at the Southeast. We are almost sure that, look, maybe few people will come out. But we saw in Imo State that people were waiting for INEC everywhere. And today, some of those places, elections will be conducted today. We didn't see the non-government, killing and hitting people as expected. We saw people come out, defying the odds. There were videos and audio of, don't come out, we're going to hit you, we don't want election in the Southeast. People defied all this and came out. The problem was INEC didn't show up. So for me, these failures are widespread that already is calling to question the credibility of this election. I mean, we should move from, let's move on. We should be able to do the basics, run an election, which logistics, technical side, forget even if you are not honest, but let the basics, people voted, those votes were counted, and then they were uploaded. Those basics. Now, let's forget the complex one of politicians buying people at home, politicians using ethnicity or sentiment to mobilize base. Those are the long-term things we're going to work on with political education, with economic development. People exit those trappings of ethnicity and other sentiment. They basically become urbanized in cultural sense, and they can vote for whoever they like. But the basic one of just deliver the votes, let people vote and let their vote count. That is I can't wrap my head around the fact that you have these people out there in the sun, numbering hundreds, if not 1,000 or 2,000, and they just can't vote. That is unpardonable. So for me, if these things are not rectified now, and if I was INEC chair, look, let me be upfront. I'm not going to declare election where you have multiple irregularities. I don't mind running election 4 times. You just have to get elections right. We saw the consequence in Kenya with the killings because of election. We see all over the world. We see in Mali. Elections are not routine. We just sit back and plug in and whatever at the end of it, Jega announces it because, Mahmoud is a little officer. He pronounces and then we go to court. And then the judges, 4 people or 6, 7 people, we pick number 4 and make it number 1. And by the way, back to the Attorney General, it's irresponsible for an Attorney General who should have been apologizing to look for crevice in the law, escape route, and say, oh, it's third party. That's irresponsible. The essence of secret ballot is that nobody knows, and you are already campaigning. The president raises his vote. People shouted. The Attorney General, Chief Law Officer. So, see, we should stop this bowdlerization of civilized norm. I mean, how can an Attorney General who should have kept quiet or say, I'm very sorry, I didn't tell you, says where the law is looking at criminal justice, it's looking at legalism. How do we escape? The law talked about third party. It's not looking at the fact that he has undermined integrity of pool, that he voted, the Minister for Social Humanitarian Affairs voted and showed people. So I think that we are a country. We have the 2nd out of the 5 most terrorized states in the world. We're number 3. We are part of the most terrorized. We have the highest incidence for state failure. We have one of the highest for disturbance and social chaos. And our leaders are acting so wantonly in quest of power. I think it's irresponsible for an Attorney General to be making an argument to excuse a flagrant violation of the morality and even the legality of free and fair election. The idea of going to that cubicle is that nobody knows what you have done. And for you to now do it and bring it out again negates everything. I think those incidents tell you that the rule of law framework for this election was undermined, that our leaders who are supposed to be the gatekeepers and protectors of the integrity of the electoral process themselves are reckless. Orji Sokalo did his own, showed it up, even though he even voted void. That tells you the mindset of people, the mental health of people who are driving our democracy. So I was so sad. President Buhari has done well enough to give us a free and fair election, signed the act, has been very, very stable in saying, but that moment of indiscretion was really damning. And really, we should not say, oh, let's get the votes and get a winner. No, this country should be thanking God that we had non-violent election in the main. There was less violence. Let's not complicate our crisis by not dealing with these very serious issues that we need to sort out.
All right, Dr. Amadi, very strong submissions there from you. Of course, we'll return to some of these issues in a short while, but for now, we have to go on a break. When we return, the special coverage of the elections will continue. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Emergencies happen when you least expect them to. It gets worse when you are cash trapped. No need to despair. First Advance has you covered. You can get that urgent cash right now on First Advance. With First Advance, salary earners can get up to 50% of their salary. No hassles, as long as you earn a monthly salary and your salary account has been active for at least 2 months. It doesn't matter if you run a salary account with First Bank or any other bank. Just dial *894*11# or simply dial *894# on your mobile phone. What's more, when you open a First Bank salary account, you can enjoy 0 charges and free debit card issuance. Download the First mobile app on Play Store or App Store today. Log in to experience First Bank digital banking. Select loans, select First Advance, and follow the prompts to receive your loan. Don't let that urgent need get the best of you. Get First Advance now. It's as simple as dialing *894*11#. First Advance. Fast, convenient, secure. You first. First Bank.
As you adjust to the new realities for operating your business and engaging with your customers, let us help you transform your business into a digital powerhouse capable of adapting and taking advantage of today's opportunities. With our best-in-class array of digital solutions, you can conduct your business, receive payments from your customers, and perform transactions quickly, safely, and conveniently, because we've got you covered with the right people, technology, and service offerings. Contact us today and let us take your business to its zenith. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
As a player, there's nothing better than the roar of your crowd. But in Nigeria, there's a roar that may not be heard again. With fewer than 50 lions left, they could be extinct in the next few years, from loss of habitat and prey, and snares set for illegal bushmeat. So please, say no to illegal bushmeat. Let's keep the roar alive for Nigeria, because poaching steals from us all.
Welcome back to our special coverage on the 2023 Presidential and National Assembly elections. Well, voters in Rivers State have been speaking on the conduct of the Presidential and National Assembly elections held on Saturday. Arise correspondent Andy Amano, who monitored the election process across some local government areas, has the details.
Government areas visited were Port Harcourt City, Obiakbo, Tai, Eleme, Gokana, Kana, and Emoha. Many of the voters were at their polling units as early as 7 a.m. But as time progresses, this enthusiasm faded due to the late arrival of election materials in many of the polling units. In others, there was no result sheets to enter scores after the elections concluded. The spokesperson of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council in Rivers State, Dr. Lulenu Wibubasa, who voted in a polling unit in Ward 12 in Wiyakara, Kana local government area, gave his assessment on the conduct of the elections.
I already believe that clearly that this is done to frustrate this unit. The local government understands my position as the spokesman for Atiku. Of course, you have verified that all the units in this community, they are behind me to vote for my preferred candidate. And so this is a ploy to disenfranchise them and deny my principal votes. It's unfortunate, but we are pressing on to see what we can get out of this.
However, only 3 of the 16 BVAS machines deployed in Ward 16, Unit 16 of Bera, Kokana local government area, the country home of the Rivers State SDP governorship candidate, Senator Magnus Abbey, were initially functioning. The hitches delayed Abbey's bid to vote.
Last night, they came and then changed. All those who applied online and through the portal were discarded. And then party members of the People's Democratic Party were substituted to conduct the elections. As we speak now in Banga, no accreditation was done. The SPO disappeared with the result sheet, and he has not been found up till now. And they want to close. And so the people are creating a situation right there. So you can see that there is a deliberate effort to subvert the ability of the Ogoni people to vote in this particular election. just because people know that this is a stronghold of the Social Democratic Party in this state. So that's all that is going on. There's nothing wrong with this election. There's nothing wrong with this process, but people are deliberately subverting the process, bringing in politicians to destroy the process and prevent other citizens from having any opportunity to have their own say in the future of their country.
But the picture is not the same in Elebrada, Emoha local government area, the country home of the Rivers APC state chairman, Emeka Beke.
Today, you can watch what is going on. There's no violence because the beaver has come to solve all the problem we're facing. And I can tell you that everybody here is very happy. Both the PDP and the APC, they are working together. The best party should take the day. And what is happening, if you watch what has happened here today, I'm the chairman of APC Rivers State, but that's why I'm not going to force people to vote. People decide they're all adults. When you're up to 18 years, you're an adult, you have the right to choose wherever. Even though your child who is 18 years, you cannot tell him where to vote. You understand? The only time you know who has won is what they are giving out today. Counting and all that will decide who becomes the winner of today's election.
Both Xavier Oscar Meabe, an environmental activist, and Emmanuel Dia, a former member, House of Representatives, are from Kana local government area. They have their different perspectives about the conduct of the polls.
From the INEC office, we discovered that the result sheet that is here is not the original result sheet. What we have here at your CISO is actually not the original result. And I'm quite sure at the end of the voting exercise, there will be a serious challenge. But we are all keeping quiet now because we believe that at the moment, we want everywhere to be peaceful, believing that after this voting process, the original result will come up from wherever it has been kept in hiding. But if that is not done, then our thought or our observation again would be that after this voting, the next situation we are going to look at for is that we must be able to transmit the result immediately. Any delay outside the transmission of the voting will be seen to be either they have wrecked the election.
When you talk about the beavers not functioning, there are two things. Sometimes they say what they call about code or something is one of the issues. The other one is also network. And it's like the phones that we use is not steady. But so far, I've gone to at least 5 units within the community, and I've not covered all of them. It's going on well.
These voters also spoke on the conduct of the elections.
There is no discrepancy of any kind. There is no problem. The election is going very peacefully. And so far, I think this is one of the most peaceful elections that we've had around this environment, where people were allowed to vote their conscience. People were allowed to vote according to what they think will better their life. There was no external interference of any kind.
You know, so far in my community, I'm so happy that today is the first time we are experiencing a peaceful election. So far, from when I started voting, when I started participating in the election, today I give it to it today that today is the best. It's very peaceful. You can see there is no ballots matching, no gun, no fighting. I give glory to God.
We have 451 names written down. So when we get to 280, they told us that they will close by 4. We revolted, and the situation was calmed down. We continue. Meanwhile, they have been complaining they don't have ink, they don't have this. They will go out, they will come in, and we are just watching them. But we told them that everybody that is here, we vote. I myself have voted. I voted already. But I'm waiting for others to be voted so that the vote will be counted and be uploaded before I will leave here. And they have been complaining. If there is any way you people can get inside and interview them, or through the window, you can interview them. We refuse them to go because we said that anybody that is in that list is in the line here. They must finish voting because that is what INEC said.
Why don't you want others to exercise their civic rights? Because you shutting down some people now and you can't the remaining vote. How do you think others will feel, people that didn't vote? They will feel that they've been robbed, which is not fair. So I think people should please help us talk to the INEC officials, those hearing us, both in Rivers State and in the national level. Please, at least this presidential election is like eye-opener to all of us. They shouldn't repeat this in the governorship election.
In all, the polling process in the council areas visited was characterized by hiccups. For instance, in 3 units in Port Harcourt City local government area, there were no result sheets. All efforts to reach the INEC officials proved abortive. Besides, security was also a major concern in many polling units visited. There were no security officials present at some of the polling units, while others had a large presence of security personnel. Also, there are yet to be confirmed rumors of election results ballot boxes snatching by political talks and some security personnel. INEC officials also had problems with uploading of election results after polling. Though there was a massive voter turnout, many are already apprehensive that the hiccups encountered may affect the outcome of the elections. From Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, Andy Omano, Arise News.
Well, on the other hand, the election went peacefully in Akuku Toru and Asari Toru local government area of Rivers State, an area notorious for violence. All political parties that participated in the election expressed satisfaction with the process. Udwak Patrick filled this report.
Voting in Abonima, the headquarters of Akuku Toru local government area of Rivers State, started at 8:30 a.m. Abonima is the community where more than 30 persons lost their lives during the 2019 presidential election. Fast forward to 2023, the voters say they decided to be peaceful rather than going through the same pain of the 2019 elections. They expressed satisfaction with the performance of the Beavers and commended the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC.
Those who voted before me said it was seamless, and I've just experienced it. So you can see that everybody here is orderly in the queue, waiting for their turns, and doing the needful. So there's no intimidation, as you can see. People are well advised. They have been properly informed of what to do before now.
From what is happening now, it may be too early to pass a judgment now, but at least so far, so good. Everything is going on well, and I think the Beavers system is a good omen. When I did my own, I was even surprised the speed with which it captured my face. I was expecting some delays, but there was no delay whatsoever. If Beavers will now make our votes count, then we know that if I fight you, it doesn't change what the Beavers is carrying.
And I want to also thank the leadership of the National Assembly and even the President that came up with the bill and subsequently became an act. I want to believe that is what has contributed to this calmness that we're witnessing in this election. It's more calm, more peaceful than the other previous election. And this is the way you should go, So far, so good. We don't have any reason to doubt the efficiency of the Beavers machine. It has been good, and INEC has done well. They have, in every ward, a rack technician.
In Buguma, the headquarters of Asari Toru local government area, residents say they want the election to be peaceful during the governorship elections.
Very impressive, the turnout massive, and we've not had this kind of turnout and participation by people. Secondly, all my years of being in politics, I've never seen Buguma as peaceful as this in an election. And it's it's unprecedented that you have people come around. It's more like a reunion. I wouldn't expect anything less than this, then I'll be disappointed, because if what I've seen today is anything to go by, then it means that we should look forward to a free and fair governorship election.
Security is all over the place and no quarrel. Everybody is voting their conscience. And I can tell you that this is one of the most peaceful election has ever done for the past 10, 15 years.
Voting in this part of Rivers State started early and was well coordinated. However, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike expressed dissatisfaction with the functionality of the Beavers. Although he voted, he said his wife could not vote.
All right, so various issues there. KK, I think it would be nice to have your comments now. There are a few issues that you have been waiting to discuss. But of course, let's pick it from what we have seen so far in Rivers State, etc. What are your thoughts, KK?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag.
It's a mixed bag, yes.
Yes, it's a mixed bag, particularly impressed about what happened at one of the polling units in the river when a gentleman says, in all his years in politics, he has never witnessed an election that is as peaceful as the one we have just had. Just as we have had reports of violence and disruption in parts of River State. That is a mixed bag. That is why an assessment, again, I insist, for it to be judicious and, we will have to have a panoramic view, of what has happened, in various parts of the country, and then also ascertain the truth of some of the claims, that have been made, before dealing with it. But then one thing that cannot be denied is that INEC has to up its games, especially in preparation for the governorship and the state legislative elections that will be coming up in 2 weeks' time. So by and large, again, it's still confusing, because if you, from footages, I once saw on television yesterday, the initial response should be that, oh, there's massive turnout, But I agree, with the observation made by Steve earlier in the program, that maybe it is when we actually see the figures, released, that we'll be able to see that. But the general impression is that there's been a large turnout, but it is clear that a momentum has been generated in the land, and that momentum is hugely positive, and it's also significant for the future of Nigerian brand of liberal democracy. That is that more and more people are interested in how they are governed. More and more people are trying to relate whatever they may be facing in the socio-economic realm, to policies. That some of these problems, some of these questions, that they grapple with, in their daily lives, that ultimately they have political answers. And to that extent, they cannot be indifferent, But that is why when you have reports of voter apathy, it's something that should be disturbing, because if you have voter apathy, that will not lead to deepening of democracy. But if you have enthusiasm, more citizens, more voters who are insisting, exercising their franchise, then you are in the process of deepening democracy, and then giving a true meaning, to this expression by everybody that democracy is about the will of the people. Because that will of the people may just be there, as a latent force. But the only way to activate it is, what we are seeing on display now, that people are actually interested in casting their ballots, in being part of that very important decision-making process of who should be the leader or who should occupy a particular office. The power which has been prescribed in the Constitution. So I say, just on the face of it, I think it's positive, but then it is necessary for INEC to correct some of the errors that have been important, especially for the immediate future.
Will you want to bring in a few thoughts on what you had discussed earlier about a structure, what constitutes structure, and if it is just mere euphemism for preparedness?
Thank you very much. I think, yes, when you see it as a euphemism, I say it is in the pejorative sense, and that's negative way of saying it, because structure is taking that, that it is the euphemism given to terrible things that politicians do in terms of manipulation and the rest, But I think in the interest of democracy, in the interest of deepening the democratic culture, there is need to rehabilitate the category structure. Structure, in this case, should be understood as an imperative for organization, Even in private business, you cannot organize your company if you don't have a structure, in place. And our politics is a multi-party politics, That's why nobody goes into any election, no matter how good it may be as an independent candidate. You need as a matter of constitutional requirement, you need the platform of a party. So, and if you are going to develop the multi-party democracy in Nigeria, then the parties must be properly organized. And in the course of organization, you need structures, to organize it. It's sometimes contradictory. People, when you see people who advocate that, you need to build institutions, you need to build values, and at the same time, they use the word structure in pejorative terms. For any institution to last, it needs structure. So structure is a positive thing. It's not. It is what every political party needs. For it to play that role.
All right, KK. That's good. But we have to go to Warri now, where our correspondent Jemima Boloko is standing by to bring us up to speed on what is happening in Warri. Let's hope that Warri has not carried last, as they say. Jemima, what is the situation of things there?
Hello, Steve and Oji. Warri no they carry last, like the good old saying. So let me give you the situation on ground now. I'm here in at the INEC office, Warri chapter, the major central area of Delta State, where you can see behind me a lot of the mammoth crowd. People are expected to get their electoral materials, but yet to receive this. Due to yesterday, the INEC officials failed to distribute these materials to their different polling units in different local government area in Warri South. So this has been a major issue in this local government in Warri. But here with me to give a better view of what has been happening since yesterday is this day correspondent Sylvester here with me. Mr. Sylvester, please, can you tell me what has been happening so far? I heard you say, you told me earlier on that you saw serious armor tanks earlier on in the day, security forces here. Give us a background of what's been happening since yesterday.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, what played out yesterday is about repeating itself. As about this time yesterday, 9:20, 9:30, INEC officials were not on ground. They have not dispersed materials and officials. And we were told that the exercise will commence an hour after. But surprisingly, as at 2:03, that was when they started discharging, materials, officials to the. And as at in some areas in Warri, late last night, we confirmed that they were able to vote. They cast their vote as late as 9, 10, 11. But in major parts of the Warri, there was no election. Early this morning, as early as 7 o'clock, I was there again. I saw a heavily built up security arrangement, an armor tank, 5 gun trucks, horse of military and police from Joint Task Force. And on investigation, I learned that some angry youths threatened that this place will be burned down today because they could not exercise their franchise. But thank God, the place is calm now. The INEC is about, dispersing materials and officials. Hopefully, there will be election in some units.
Okay. We just tried talking to the INEC chairman of this chapter, and he seemed very confused. What do you have to? Has he spoken to the crowd? Has he addressed the crowd? Because if you look to our back, the back of everywhere, you can see INEC. Can you come over this way, please? Come over this way, please. You can see INEC. Can you see some materials? Materials on the ground, scattered all over the place. So can you tell us what is the situation with the INEC chairman at this chapter?
I think the INEC chairman has not been able to talk to the media and talk to the political agents because of pressure on him. There has been a lot of pressure since last night. All eyes are on Warri local government. All eyes on Warri. So he's working under pressure, and I believe with time he will talk to the media.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sylvester there. As you can see, I have a paper here. If my cameraman can see, this was found at the back building of INEC office here. You can see the thumbprints, thousands of them thrown at the back of INEC office. So this is very strange in an INEC office. So for us, I will be speaking to another person, Mr. Evans, to give us another view of the story, who lives around this local government area in Warri here. Mr. Evans, you've been on ground. I know you live around. Can you tell us what's been happening? Give us a feedback of what's going on in this local government.
Yes, as at yesterday afternoon by 2:30, materials were not at the polling unit yet. It got there late. And in some cases, the violence, gunshots, machete, people moving around, attacking one another. That people even came at embassy to protest about the late arrival and non-arrival of material in some polling units. And we are surprised this morning, INEC and some of the officials are defending that the election took place in these areas. People are disenfranchised, and that's why you have this crowd here. We are insisting that the election has to be repeated today so that people will cast their vote for their candidate of choice. This is the situation.
But do you see this happening? I mean, with the crowd here, people, are they still going to cast their vote today? Is that still possible?
The crowd you see here express the willingness of the people to vote. But whether INEC will do the needful or not becomes a question for INEC to answer. That the people are enthusiastic, they came out en masse, they want to cast their vote, but they are being disenfranchised because INEC is taking side, obviously, with a particular party because they know they're going to lose. APC is doing well here, Labour is doing well here, but the particular party that believe he owns the place. And knowing that Warri South is a swing local government within Delta State, they want to do everything to make sure voting does not take place here. And we are insisting that is wrong, that is not right, that is unfair, that is not free, that is not what we'll be preaching. That is not what the Beavers is all about.
Thank you very much, Mr. Evans. So as we keep a view of around what's happening in this place, we're going to keep you guys updated back all over the world. Back to you guys.
Just a quick question, Jemima. Those ballot papers that were found, you said behind an INEC office there. I see, were there a lot of ballot papers? And from your idea, where do you think that came from? Do you think it came from another polling unit? And is that INEC office open at this point?
Yeah, the ballot papers we saw earlier on from witnesses around, they said this was from a polling unit that was snatched and abandoned at the back of this building. And we're presently at the INEC office here in Esisi Road, GRA, Warri. So this is confirmed that these ballot papers were snatched. If you look at them, you can see a thumbprint. So I sent a clearer picture of them being abandoned on top earlier on, if they can use that as well. So this is what was found behind the building, just a few blocks away.
Is that office open?
Yeah, in Warri.
Is it open or is it still closed? Do you see any INEC official?
It is up. If you heard me asked earlier, the INEC chairman is here to speak to us. We followed him into his office, come and speak to us. He's refusing to say anything. He called security forces around him. So he's yet to say any word. I don't know whether it's tension or he's ignoring us. So we're waiting outside until we get him to address the crowd here and know what exactly is happening here in the Esisi Road, GRA, Warri of Delta State.
Okay, Jemima, just the last one. The people with you there are those who feel disenfranchised, who couldn't vote yesterday. Are you able to confirm if any form of voting was done yesterday and if INEC was able to collate results and transmit same to the central server?
Okay, most of the people you see around here were people that didn't get any electoral materials yesterday. Some polling units got their materials around 6 p.m. in the evening and 7 p.m. when the elections were over. Because the INEC, Independent National Electoral Commission, said elections will begin on the 25th of this month by 8:30 a.m. and to end by 2:30 a.m. But some of these polling units in Warri South got their materials as late as 6 p.m., 7 p.m. So there was no operation going on. So most of these people here are here to fight for their rights. They are here to come out and say, you must provide those materials and we're ready to vote. They are not living here or they're going to burn down this place. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Jemima. I think that back to our guest in the studio, KK, and of course, Mr. Fusika. It looks, of course, like there are serious issues there. But of course, we won't be able to take that now. Where we are now is that this is where Oji and I will be anchoring on the morning segment of the Arise Continuous coverage of the 2023 presidential and National Assembly elections. We will take a short break now, and when we come back, Ruben Abati and Leila Johnson Salami will have taken over anchor duties from us. I am Steve Ayoride.
Also would like to seize the opportunity to thank everyone that has contributed to the morning segment, including our esteemed analysts and commentators, correspondents in the field, in-studio producers, and of course, our wonderful followers all over the world. Good morning, everyone, and do stay safe. I am Oji Okpe. Goodbye.
See my shoulder, make you rest on me. You know I got you. Now me be your friend indeed. My money don't show now. I don't keep some for you. You know go so far. Cause anything I get now for me and you, yeah. How are you, my friend? How do you do, my friend? Sometimes you feel and say, nobody sent you, that's when I did for you, my friend. How are you, my friend? How do you do, my friend?
Get 1 hour of YouTube data for 50 Naira or 3 hours for 130 Naira on the MTN network. Simply dial *131 *8 *1# today.
Every day, life presents hopes, dreams, and challenges. Challenges that can become successes with a little help. Because a little help can empower you to go from despair to celebration. A little help can keep you going until the race is won. A little help can turn bundles of anxiety into a bundle of joy. And with Glow Data, you get much more than just a little help. You get the biggest data deals in town to make every day glow with small wins and big wins. Dial *777# to select your Glow Data plan.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has reallocated voters from overcrowded polling units to less populated polling units. Make sure you verify your polling unit before Election Day. To verify, visit voters.inecnigeria.org. You can check using two options. Option 1, use your name and date of birth. Option 2, use your voter identification number, also known as VIN. You can find your VIN on your permanent voter's card. You will not be able to vote if you do not go to your correct polling unit. Making your vote count, consolidating our democracy. This message is brought to you with support from the European Union Support to Democratic Governance in Nigeria, EUSDGN program.
Never say this kind of love. The way you care for me, the way you think for me. You love me, baby, I get no dinner. Forever, I just wanna make you mine. You're my shining star. You're my one and only. And every day that I wake up, I just wanna wake up.
Send and receive money across 30 countries with Send. Do it now.
Today, the Tony Elmelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program has trained over 1.5 million young African entrepreneurs. We have disbursed nearly $100 million to over 18,000 beneficiaries who have gone on to create over 400,000 jobs across Africa.
We need to do more for women in Africa. Empower a woman, you're empowering the whole.
The United Nations and head of the UN Office for the West Africa and the Sahel. I also saw Comrade Chris Isibo, President of the Nigeria Union of Journalists. But I have also seen my colleagues from different parts of Africa. So permit me to recognize Mr. Saka Lafia, Chairman of the Electoral Commission of Benin Republic. Thank you, Mr. Lafia. Thank you very much. We also have Mr. Aliu Momar Njai, Chairman, Electoral Commission of the Gambia. We have our own sister, Mrs. Jean Mensah, Chairperson of the Electoral Commission of Ghana. And then another sister, Davideta Lansana Brown, Chairperson, Electoral Commission of Liberia. Another sister of ours from Southern Africa, Mrs. Elsie Ngikembua, Chairperson of the Electoral Commission of Namibia. We have Barrister Issa Kasuna, Chairman, Electoral Commission of Niger Republic. We have Justice Jacobs Mwambakele, Chairman, Electoral Commission of Tanzania. And then my good friend, Mohamed Kone, Chairman, Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone. And there are other officials of other electoral commissions. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to the second briefing of the day. Our intention at this briefing is essentially to give you an update. Some questions were asked in the morning. We said we will provide an update. The first one is the attack in Goza. Goza is in Borno State. And I want to report that the military has confirmed that it was an 81 millimeter mortar attack on 2 facilities, including a filling station near INEC office, but no damage to INEC facilities and no casualties. Some people were injured and they're in hospital. We wish them a speedy recovery, but no destruction of INEC facilities and no disruption of the electoral process. So that is the update on Goza. Unfortunately, we continue to lose some of the bimodal voter accreditation system devices. I reported in the morning the loss of devices in Delta and in Safana local government area of Katsina State. But unfortunately, we also lost 3 BVAS machines in Ayamelum in Anambra State. But we have recovered from all these losses because we have contingency arrangement to respond to any such attack. There were issues arising from the commencement of the process in Abia, in Imo, and in Kebbi, among other places. I'm happy to say that the process is right now ongoing in Abia. The polling units will remain open well beyond the appointed hour until the last person on the queue before 2:30 votes. In Imo, the process is ongoing except a few RAs or PUs marred by insecurity and thuggery spread across 7 local government areas. And the situation in Kebbi State is stable. Voting is going on mainly in Birnin Kebbi, but earlier it affected Birnin Kebbi and a part of Argungu, but mainly in Birnin Kebbi, but voting is ongoing. But we have a situation in Bayelsa State, particularly in the capital, Yenagoa, where in 4 wards, wards 4, 6, 8, and 14, involving 141 polling units, the process was disrupted. We remobilized security. The situation is calm for us to proceed with the process, but the youth corps members express some apprehension of going back. So we met with the security agencies and we have decided that voting in these 141 polling units, where the materials are actually intact, will take place tomorrow morning. Remember, we're not only doing presidential election, but we're also doing senatorial and federal constituencies. So it's good as much as possible to recover and conduct the election so that we can conclude the processes. So the youth corps members who are going to serve as presiding officers and other categories of ad hoc staff are agreeable to the election holding in these locations tomorrow. In Lagos, we have been closely following the situation in Okota, Mofoluku,
Ça, c'est $54. C'est ce que je te donne pour
ahead of those who are going to be sharing this information. I'll give you a very practical example. So what we do sometimes is at the cable is to provide data, data about the information. How many people live in this particular locality in the first place? So that when people say that 1 million votes came from a place that has 500,000 people, how is that possible? That has to do with pre-bunking, providing necessary information before time, so that when people see this information of fake news, they can begin to in a skeptical manner and then use data that is readily available to now just oppose what is being shared mostly on social media. And I think the major stakeholders need to start sharing information beyond press releases. I'm working because if you have to wait till you share your press release and you call all the newspapers and then the journalists have to go back to write their stories, but before you know it, this information has gone wild. It's like wildfire. I want to see a point in time where the INEC chairman is going to go on TikTok and go on Facebook and do a Facebook Live. And in 10 seconds or in 30 seconds or in 1 minute, say the misinformation being shared across board that says that election has been extended, it is false. You know that is going to be fast. Journalists can now pick their stories from there. So if those guys who are sharing this information are using social media, the stakeholders should
I don't want to speak for INEC. But maybe two appearance sometimes don't reflect the reality. INEC is not the only player in this election. And I think Dr. Abati, who, had a foray of some sort into it, would confirm some of these things. See, Nigerian politicians are very, very crafty. Earlier on, we were told about a polling unit without a pad, ink pad for people, 2 persons that are supposed handling about 1,000 people. I would want to believe that in the normal course of things, INEC would have provided those materials, would have made arrangement for personnel. It's unthinkable to think INEC would not have done that. But our Nigerian politicians, they do a lot of polling. Oh. They know where they have strengths, where they have weaknesses, and so on and so forth. And as they are planning to win, they are also planning on what to do if things do not go out well for them. I'm not saying that was what happened, but don't rule out situations where Nigerians like us who were supposed to go and conduct elections will fall under the influence of some other persons and say, please don't turn up, don't just go there. So to create a confusion. Nigerians who are supposed to be delivering on this INEC mandate will be told, okay, maybe they know how many minutes it takes for somebody to vote. So if you have 1,000 voters in a polling unit, for instance, you need so number of hours. They simply influence those people to say, don't turn up by 11, don't turn up by 8:30, go there by 12. Or 1 o'clock or whatever. Or if they cannot achieve that, they say, okay, just say you don't have ink, you don't have pad, you don't have this, you don't have that. So INEC alone cannot ensure free and fair. They could do better with their, but they alone need INEC needs the cooperation of every Nigerian to, deliver free and fair elections. And that's all this talk about, structure and so on and so forth. You talk about earlier before you came in Warri, you saw a situation where people are gathered saying we want to vote, and they are being told that voting are taking place, already in that place. Our politicians, they practice democracy, but they really don't believe in it. They will do anything to make them win. I think what INEC should do going forward is to find a way to remove their own system completely, if it is possible, from having to use state structures. Because when they come to a particular state, they cannot create their own fresh whatever. Maybe they bring in NGOs. I don't know how it's going to be done. As long as you continue to rely on the state to support you, you cannot. Win 36-0. if you have 1,000 councillors, the party in power will win all the 1,000 councillors, no other person. The only time we have semblance of election is actually when you have the federal, federally organized election. But it's aspirational. We can only try to see, is the only, right now we can't, the only way to determine legitimacy of people in government is through this process. And with all its problems and all that, that's the only way it's going to be determined. We can't resort to road transport workers using whatever to change leadership or any other way. So we just have to take what is there. But the important point to make is that it is not, whilst INEC will be blamed for this, for not, it is almost impossible for you to sit. I really don't believe it that INEC will say, go and conduct election, no pad. It's not possible. It's just manipulation by some people trying to, maybe they have access to those officials and they just told them, okay, this is what we want you to do and so on and so forth. You see ballot papers, they've not even counted, thrown away somewhere. It's Nigerians that are doing it. So would INEC, unless there is a way INEC would discern when you come, want to use you as an official, then, to determine whether you will do your work the way it's supposed to be done or you are going to be susceptible to all manners of influence, on patriotic influences here and there.
Okay, I see Mr. Kunle Adegoke has joined us. Mr. Kunle Adegoke, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, very quickly, Mr. Adegoke, I would like to ask you this question. The Electoral Act talks about open secret balloting. In section 122, it talks about the requirement for secret voting. But in this election, yesterday, we saw quite a number of prominent persons after voting. They not only brandish to advertise the party that they voted for, they were even taking photographs and even announcing how they voted. Now, under section 122, subsection 4 of that Electoral Act, we're told that that's illegal. And that the person who does that is liable to 100,000 naira fine or 3 months imprisonment or both. And the persons involved here will include the president of Nigeria himself, President Muhammadu Buhari, showing how he voted and posing for photographs. The Attorney General of the Federation himself, his pictures are all over the place showing how he voted. The governor of Benue State, Samuel Otom, Senator Orji Uzor Kalu, I think I also saw his photograph. So what is the implication of this for the integrity of the electoral process if prominent persons are the ones themselves violating the law?
Right, thank you, Doctor. What transpired yesterday with respect to the individuals you mentioned is something that is not statutorily correct. And it is wrong, it is an offense under the Electoral Act for anybody, whatever is the status of that person, to vote and now display to the people or leak information about which particular candidate somebody else voted. In this regard, we'll see that what the president and the other people that you mentioned did is not only sanctionable, it is criminal. And it is something that is quite appreciated, that they may want to show to people they want to please that they actually voted for them. I think assurances they gave earlier to such individuals should have been sufficient. And it is completely out of place if high-ranking government officials and notable eminent Nigerians are the ones that are seen perpetrating such a wrongful act that is not only violating the provisions of the Electoral Act, but it's equally setting a very wrong and criminal precedent that other people, less privileged individuals, may even want to copy. So what the president did is quite objectionable. It is condemnable. He's only lucky that right now he still enjoys what we call immunity from prosecution under the Nigerian Constitution. Such other individuals who actually did it may have to be proceeded against immediately. But unfortunately, who is going to bail the cat in this instance now? Who is going to guard the guards when the Attorney General of the Federation was even reported to have engaged in a similar thing? And that is where it is pretty impossible to be able to proceed against these individuals for now. Probably After the expiration of their tenure, the appropriate authorities may have to take appropriate steps to not only condemn what they have done, but to equally make the people know that violation of any provision of the Electoral Act, it may not lead to the nullification of the election in that particular polling unit, because we cannot nullify the expression of the people based on the act of a particular individual that can be shown to have done something statutorily wrong. Where such an act cannot affect the result of that particular polling unit, we must still show it to be a deterrent to others by proceeding against such individual. Probably after May 29, the president may realize what he has done if the system is capable of righting such a wrong. And I think it is something that INEC will have to put in the cooler and will be expected to really take a step about. Otherwise, others will continue copying it. It is wrong.
Mr. Adegoke, thank you. Let's also bring in Kemaso Adewodu, another lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria, who's joining us from Bayelsa State. I'd like to get your thoughts as well on the electoral process itself, how things have gone in Bayelsa State. But first, your comments on the breaking of the Electoral Act that we've seen by government officials when voting yesterday. What are your thoughts on that? And then what are your thoughts on how the process has gone in Bayelsa State, as many people in the state will be voting today rather than yesterday?
All right, thank you for the question. First, with respect to the Electoral Act, the breaking of the provisions of Section 122 of the Electoral Act, it's clear that voting is secret and no other person should know who one has voted for. So that's a clear breach of the provisions of the Electoral Act. Then, with respect to the elections in Bayelsa State, they had very serious challenges with distribution of electoral materials. I don't know what happened, but at least in 5 wards in Yenagoa, elections could not take place. They are taking place now as we speak. I think that in the organization of the election, they had a lot of technical and logistics problems. These are issues which they will need to address. Then another issue which is of serious importance to me is the voting process itself, particularly the accreditation. The Electoral Act, as in, I think, 47 of the Electoral Act, 1, 2, and 3, provided that accreditation should be by means of smart card reader or any other technological device. And INEC has introduced the BVAS, which it has used in 2 previous elections, that's these by-elections, and then which is using now. So with that provision of the law, there's no room for manual accreditation with the use of the hard copy of the voters register. It takes time. I saw on TV where voting took place at about 2 or 3 a.m. in some states. And that's because in addition to accreditation with the use of the BVAS, they are also accrediting manually using voters register. And it takes time to look at the voters register, confirm the name, identity, card numbers, face of the voter, and ticking it. It takes a lot of time. And that is a process which we have moved away from in the new Electoral Act of 2022. It was the system before, but it's no longer the system. So INEC would need to do away with it. INEC has included these provisions in paragraphs 19E, 2, and 3 of its guidelines, and which, as far as I'm concerned, are illegal, because by virtue of the provisions of Section 47 of the Electoral Act, where the BVAS machine does not work, the election should be postponed. They can't even resort to manual accreditation by use of the hard copy of the voters register. So when there's no provision enabling the use of the hard copy of the voters register for process of accreditation, INEC, I think, is wrong to use that manual accreditation to delay the process, which led to a lot of problems. Of course, if election is going on and taking place in the 9th, it presents a lot of problems. So for purposes of the next set of elections, INEC will need to re-examine the accreditation process. So that, because if they're using only the beavers, it shouldn't take time. If they are spending 10 hours for accreditation and voting with just the beavers, it will take only a short while. Because the way it is now, since even the voters register is not recognized by the Electoral Act for purposes of accreditation, it can't even be used in court. So of what use is the voters register that they are bringing in to delay the process? So I think there's no need for that.
Well, thank you, SAN. Let me come back to you,
Yes,
Maudi. Earlier on, you gave us a general impression of what you saw and also the report by the Civil Society Situation Room. But I observed something. It will appear as if while the report of the Situation Room is close to that of IAGA, which is also an observer group monitoring the election, the Center for Democracy and Development seems to have a slightly more positive approach in terms of assessing the election in their own preliminary report. Is it possible that the various observer groups observed different elections and arrived at different conclusions? I would like to ask you that. And the second thing is about the uploading of results to the INEC IREV, what INEC calls IREV. We were told that by 11:35 yesterday, INEC was already uploading results. But by 7 a.m. this morning, some people reported that INEC was no longer uploading, and whatever INEC uploaded overnight or yesterday night had disappeared out of about 20,000 results that was, submitted yesterday after the end of polls. Do you have any information in this regard about the uploading of results?
Okay, after I spoke, somebody from that end were trying to defend INEC. Actually would have loved to defend INEC because when we saw Beaver,